So I woke up with an idea that I want to make my own C2 framework, which is basically a toolkit that hackers use to remotely control compromised systems. The only problem is that I'm not a full stack developer and I have pretty much no idea how to even start. But these days we can Google pretty much everything, so I guess it's gonna be fine. Before you start building anything, it's good to know what you wanna build, so let's talk about features that we're gonna implement into our C2 framework. We definitely wanna have an agent that can execute commands and persist in some way on the system. Agent is basically the file that we're gonna send to the system to compromise it. So it needs to call back to us upon being executed, and we want it to persist on the system so that if a target reboots their PC, we want the agent to connect to us on startup, for example. I don't know, we'll figure this out. Second thing, we want to have a web-based frontend with a list of active zombies. Zombies is what I call the infected machines. So web-based frontend, what it basically means is that we want to control everything from a web-based environment. I don't want to make a desktop app. I probably do it in Flask or some other framework. You'll see later in this video. Now, ability to generate payload and send commands to zombies. So basically I want to implement a payload generator so that you choose the OS, target OS, target architecture, and what type of payload you want. Maybe you want an executable file, maybe you want PowerShell, maybe you want .sh script, right, for Linux. So user will have an ability to choose what they want, to specify target specify the IP and port, and the C2 will basically generate a ready-to-use payload for them. Now, starting with the frontend, this is what I came up with. We have these three tabs at the left side. So we have agents, listeners, and active connections. In the agents tab, you will have a list of agents. Each will have a name, target OS, target architecture, a type, and maybe something else. You will have a button to delete it. You will have maybe some other button. We'll see. We'll have this button add agents right here. In the listeners, you will have a name, you will have a host port, the date created. You'll have also this button add listeners. We'll have a button to delete it. And maybe last screen, I will go with active connections, and maybe we'll have some graph or a word map that will display where you have an active connection. So I think it will be cool. You'll be able to either see a list or see a word map. So we'll see how it goes. This is just a general overview of how I see this project. Now I just want to say that it is not gonna be the next Cobalt Strike, obviously, and by no means a professional software. I'm just doing it for fun and to learn something new, so I hope you will follow along, learn something with me, and of course don't use it for any illegal and unethical purposes. As for the project structure, we need to make some folders. First, templates. Then we need static. These are just some things that Flask requires to work. Static CSS inside this folder, and let's make a style.css script. We will worry about the content later. Here we'll have our HTML templates, right? And now we just need app.py, which is gonna be our main file. Let's move it to the root, and here's how it should look. So let me layout.html. This is gonna be our main HTML file. As I said, we want to have like a main template, and then we will edit it with each page. So we wanna have a payloads.html page. Then we need listeners.html page, and we also need connections.html page for later use, because we'll use it maybe in a few videos to display a map or something, just like I said before. Okay, let's jump to app.py. We want to start with imports. So from Flask import a couple things: Flask render template, request, redirect, and URL for. Great, now just type app equals Flask __name __, like this. and we want to start with routes. And routes are these things that will be triggered once you enter a certain directory. So let's say we specify a route like this, and here it's gonna have a function called def welcome, like that. Okay, so let's say we have this, and let's actually return something here. So return render template welcome.html. Welcome.html. And we need to create this file, of course I forgot about it. Okay, now what this means? It basically means that if we enter, let's say our app is called app, right? So if we enter app.com, this website, this will be triggered because this is like the root of our website. If we do route/test, for example, then we will return this page, welcome.html, once we enter app/test. Okay, so here we specify the directory, and once user enters this directory, this will happen. So basically that's, in short, this is how it works. Now we want more of these routes because we need the base route, the welcome route. We want a route for payloads, right? So /payloads, and it will render payloads.html. We want a route for listeners, so listeners. Watch for any typos, because if you do the typo here, it will not render correctly or something like this. Now one more is connections. And that should be it for routes right now. The last thing to do is to specify this outro, sort of main app.run. And now here you want to specify host. You can either type your local IP to run this app locally on this computer, or you can go to terminal, ifconfig, and you can specify your internal IP to run this app on your internal network, on your home network, so that you can access this website from other machines inside this network. I'm gonna choose this option because I wanna test it with. I will be testing it with some other machines later on, so I need it to be accessible on my network. But you do you. Port equals 5000, let's say, and 5000, not 500, and debug true. Okay. Great. So with that said, we should be able now to run our app. So go to the directory where app.py is located. All right. In my case, desktop bigcat, Python 3 app.py, and I have something return, not return. So return like this. A typo. Okay, so now it should. Okay, a different error. What's this? What's this about? View function mapping is overwriting an existing endpoint function welcome. Yeah, sure, because I made all the functions saying welcome. Just change this. Okay, and now it's on. As you can see, running on HTTP 192.168.0.98.5000. So let's copy link, go to Firefox, and paste it here. And as you can see, we have nothing, sure, because our HTML files are empty, but we see a valid connection. So it works. We know that our app does exist. If we enter whatever route, let's go listeners, you can see in the logs that it successfully resolved this directory. If you do some garbage directory, you will see error not found, right? And you will see 404 here. Great, so everything works. And so let's start with our HTML. Let's make it show something. Now we need to write some HTML, and I personally don't find HTML super interesting, so let me skip the writing part, and with the magic of editing it appears on the screen. And yeah, what's going on here is that we are linking, of course, the styles.css file here, the one that we created here. Actually, we need to edit it. Styles, not style. Okay, now going back. All this metadata, you can copy paste it from the link in the description from my GitHub. So definitely go do that, or you can write it yourself if you want. But yeah, main container, main div, we have a sidebar here. We have a content here, which is, so these are basically the buttons that will appear on the left side, and this is the content that will appear in the middle. If we enter payloads or listeners tabs, as you can see, according to this if block, it will render a add button for us. If we are on welcome or connections, it won't render it. That's because we don't need it. For payloads and listeners tabs, we need add button, because we will add payloads and listeners in the future. Sure, so this is basically additional functionality that this will be additional functionality that will highlight this text, so that you see on what page you are. This is like a cosmetic thing, but it looks cool. You will see in a you will see once we go and do the styles.css file. But yeah, let me first go to the welcome.html, and let's actually see if everything works. So extend layout.html. In this way, we will be able to use this inside our welcome.html, because as you remember, in the app.py, we are not rendering layout.html anywhere. We are rendering each page, and it will basically extend the layout.html. I hope it is. I hope you understand. If you don't, you will see in a second visually how it works. Now here you want to block content like that, and let's have an h2 tag called welcome, saying welcome, because it's a welcome page, and let's create a div here that we will use in a future class equals welcome. Great. So now, if you go to the terminal, go to the desktop and bigcat folder, python 3 app.py, it runs with no errors. And now what you want to do is to visit your page, and we have an error. All right, so what's going on? Could not build URL endpoint for payloads. Did you mean payloads instead? Okay, I've made a typo. So let me quickly fix that. We have a typo where in app.py, maybe? Yes. Payloads and payloads. Okay, you have probably spotted it way earlier, but yeah, it is what it is. Let's run it one more time and refresh. Okay, nice. What do we have here? We have bigcat. This is the name that will appear at the top left corner. If we click it, it is bringing us to the main screen, to the root directory. If we click payloads, it is bringing us to payloads. Okay. If we click listeners, it brings us to listeners. If we click active connections, it brings us to connections. And here is the welcome. This is the welcome caption. Now, let's do some CSS and let's make it look pretty. Now I don't want you to sit and just look at me writing CSS, so I'm gonna speed it up. If you want, you can follow along, or you can also go to the description of this video, click the link to my GitHub and copy the ready code and just skip to the part where we are continuing with the framework. So I'm just gonna leave it here with some music and enjoy. And as you can see, it starts to look very pretty. Of course, payloads tab is empty because we didn't implement it yet, but let's actually do it right now. Here again, we are extending the layout HTML, right? So we do the same thing as in welcome.html. Extends layout.html in quotation, single quotation marks, like that, and we finish it with the percent sign. Now you do %block content, I keep hitting $sign instead of %. And as the last thing, we will need the end block. So let me start with this h2 tag, payloads, with payloads table, and we're gonna have a table with some columns that we will name right now, because first we need to basically set a schema of this table, and then we will implement the elements of the table itself. So like this, tr, and inside this tr tag we do th, and here we want to have a name, and let me copy this, actually it's gonna be faster. So we want to have a name, we want to have target OS, target architecture, type, host IP, host port, delete, and download. And these are the names for the buttons that will be there. Okay, once we are done with that, let's set the actual elements, and this is gonna be in the tbody tag, right? And we will want to fetch these elements from the database, right? So we don't want to hard code it. Hence, we need to do it like this. For payloads, for payload in payloads, tr, td, and here we do double curly brackets, payload 1, and we do it 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we are missing 2 buttons, so let me do this td tags, and let's implement a button. Let's create a button of type submit, delete. Let me copy this. We'll make this button say download, and yeah, no other functions for now. No other functions for now. Let's finish this with the end for block. So end for. And we should be good to go with payloads.html for now. So let me open up terminal. As you can see, everything is working, and if we go to payloads, we have the titles of each column displayed here. So let's do the same for listeners. So I'm actually gonna copy this here and change this. We'll stay with a name. We want host, port, PID, which is process ID. I'm gonna explain it in a second. We want connect for a button and delete for the second button. So let's actually delete that. Let me actually make for listener in listeners. I'm gonna have listener instead of payload here. And here's gonna be connect, and here is gonna be delete. And that's pretty much it. So if we now go to the listeners in our app, we should be able to see how it looks. Yeah, exactly. So you have the name, host, port, process ID. What is process ID? This is each listener that was created by our framework will be a separate process, a standalone process from this app, because we want it to be active even if the app is dead. Okay, we don't want to lose connection. So this will display the process ID on our machine of this listener. And that's basically it. But this is backend stuff. We're gonna cover it in one of the next videos. And speaking about the next video, that's where we're gonna implement all the database related stuff, so that all the information about payloads and listeners will not be lost and will be stored in a database locally. So subscribe if you don't wanna miss it, and see you soon.